Discover the incredible moment when a broken old man transforms a millionaire's challenge forever. In the dim light of his crumbling home, Harold sat alone, thick silence heavy upon his tired shoulders. At 68, life had become a monotonous echo of the laughter and community that once thrived in Maplewood. Photographs adorned his walls, sepia-toned memories of backyard barbecues, dance parties, and friendly neighbors, now mere ghosts lost to time. Over the years, the spirit of the town had faded just like the faces in those pictures. Once proud, Harold felt like a shadow of himself, battling a body that was as worn out as the memories he clung to. Then, out of nowhere, billionaire Mark Thompson arrived. He rolled into town with a promise: a shiny new community center, a glimmer of hope for all the residents hanging by the thread of despair. But this hope came with a catch: a charity sports event, one that could bring them all together. The excitement was palpable, but old wounds throbbed under the surface. Whispers filled the air: was someone like Mark really here to help? Or was he just another fleeting presence, like the passing trains that once brought life into Maplewood? Amid the excitement, Harold's estranged daughter, Emily, returned from the city dressed in designer clothes, her eyes tinted with judgment yet wary affection. "Dad, can't you just let it go?" she implored, her concern brimming over like a fresh cup of coffee. Harold's heart sank. She didn't understand. The past wasn't just a weight he carried, it was his lifeline. Memories flickered like the dying light bulb above, urging him to preserve the threads of his community. As townspeople gathered and shared glances of doubt, Harold felt a flicker of something rise within him, a desire to rekindle that pride they all once had. The challenge of uniting a fractured town loomed over him. This time, it wasn't about winning, it was about healing. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into a countdown fraught with tension. Old rivalries sprang back to life as accusations of past failures flew like arrows. Then disaster struck: a critical injury sidelined one of their best players just days before the event. Tears filled Harold's eyes, not just for his team, but for the fragmented community that mirrored his own heart. In that moment of hopelessness, Harold stood up, voice quivering, yet resolute. "We can't keep hiding in the shadows of our past," he cried. He spoke of shared laughter, of hard-fought battles, drawing each face to remember what made them a community. They had been broken, yes, but they still had each other. The tension melted, a wave of recognition rippling through the crowd. Now, as he stood ready to face the day, Harold looked across the gathered faces, familiar, yet distant, and felt a knot of hope weaving through his chest. Could they really believe in themselves? Could they reunite not just for competition, but for the love of each other? The stakes were higher than any game, and the chance to heal and forgive tugged at their hearts. The silence thickened once more, leaving everyone holding their breath, ready to take the leap. But would they? Harold stood at the center of the makeshift gathering, his heart racing. Faces flickered with uncertainty under the muted sunlight, each one grappling with their own ghosts. The feelings swirling around him were almost tangible: fear, nostalgia, hope. Just moments ago, it felt like they were all suspended in time, caught between the past and the unpredictable present. That he took a deep breath, allowing the quiet murmur to fade into the background. "I know it feels impossible. I feel it too," he began, his voice trembling but steady. "But we've got to try. If we don't, we'll just keep living in this shell of a town, letting the past define who we are." Some of the townspeople nodded, recognizing the truth in his words, while others remained skeptical, arms crossed tightly over their chests. It was a tough crowd. Harold had seen those looks before, the hopelessness echoing stories untold. He couldn't blame them, life in Maplewood had spun in circles for too long. "Let us not forget the joy we shared. He continued, the memories flooding in. He recounted tales of old, days when laughter rang out during summer nights, when kids chased fireflies in backyards that felt like magic. He told them how, together, they could rebuild that joy, not just for themselves but for the children too. Think of the future. This town can be vibrant again. As he spoke, he glanced over at Emily, who was watching with an unreadable expression. Her gaze shifted from him to the townsfolk, observing the flickers of hope beginning to blossom in their eyes. Slowly, the atmosphere began to change. Whispers of agreement began to spiral through the group. A woman from the back stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice clear. "You're right, Harold. We can't just sit here and watch everything slip away. We need to fight for Maplewood." Her words hung in the air, igniting something deep within the crowd. Another voice chimed in, this time from a man long known for his cynicism. "What if we put our differences aside just for this event? One last chance to remember who we once were." His proposal sparked a ripple of excitement among the townsfolk. They leaned in, discussing possibilities like flames igniting kindling, growing with each shared thought. Emily watched her father, the old man who had once seemed so lost. Harold was no longer a shadow, he was the very heart of Maplewood, pulsing with the energy they had all forgotten. Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and sadness. Did she really have to be the one to let him go? Without warning, the townspeople burst into a flurry of activity. Plans began to form. They excitedly tossed ideas back and forth, all while laughter bubbled to the surface. One small moment had turned a gathering of broken spirits into a united force, but as the event drew near, doubt crept back. Harold felt the weight of responsibility press on his shoulders. Could they really pull together? What if it didn't work? What if it all fell apart again, leaving them more broken than before? That night, Harold sat on his porch, gazing out over the desolate street stretching before him. The stars shimmered like distant dreams. He wondered if he was strong enough to lead them through the chaos, to guide them toward healing. Just then, Emily stepped outside, concern etched on her face. "Dad," she began hesitantly, and the weight of her voice whispered like wind through the trees. "What if they don't come?" Harold turned to meet her gaze, determination flashing in his eyes. "They will, Emily. They just need a reason to believe again." He held her glance, questions swirling around them. Could he inspire that belief one last time? Would they truly unite? A storm was brewing on the horizon, but beneath it lay a seed of possibility, fragile yet unwavering, ready to bloom. The night breathed heavy around them, thick with questions. As if life were holding its breath, waiting for the next step. The morning light broke through the trees, wrapping the town of Maplewood in a warm embrace. The air buzzed with a sense of purpose, and Harold could hear the unmistakable sounds of life stirring outside. Excitement mixed with anxiety as he pulled on his worn jacket. Today was the day they would show what Maplewood stood for, but in his heart, doubts lingered, shadows from the night pressing against the promise of a new dawn. As he stepped outside, he was greeted by the sight of townsfolk already bustling about. Tables were being set up along the main street, colorful banners were unfurled, and laughter floated in the air, an echo from a past that he hoped to revisit. Harold noticed Emily, a familiar spark in her eyes, rearranging a clump of flowers. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and the tension between them softened. She flashed him a smile, a small but potent reminder of why he was fighting for this town. "Dad, we're going to make this place come alive again," she said, her voice layered with enthusiasm. "Just look at them." Inspired, Harold nodded and joined the fray, directing volunteers and stringing lights as if each bulb were a part of his own beating heart. Among the hustle, they were crafting something bigger than themselves. Dolly, a woman known for her fierce spirit, approached him with a tray of cookies. "These keep us going," she said with a wink, handing him one. He took a bite, sweetness melting in his mouth, and he couldn't help but smile at her willingness to nurture everyone. As they worked side by side, a hush fell over the crowd. The source was unmistakable, a sleek car gliding along Maplewood's South Main Road, pristine and out of place. Its glossy black exterior caught the morning sun, and Harold felt a knot twist in his stomach. Who could it be? The car stopped, and its door swung open, revealing an impeccably dressed man whose confidence radiated. "Dave Thompson," he announced, stepping onto the ground with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The town's wealthiest resident, a man everyone knew but few truly understood. He looked around at the scene, brows raised like he was inspecting livestock at a fair. "What's all this then?" he asked, a hint of mockery lacing his tone. Harold stepped forward, bracing himself. "This is our town, our chance to come together and celebrate Maplewood's spirit," he replied, his voice steady despite the nerves twisting inside him. Dave crossed his arms, skepticism written all over his face. "Do you really think you can bring life back to this old place? People have given up on you, on this town." The air thickened. Whispered conversations paused as everyone turned their attention to the confrontation. Harold felt the weight of their eyes, the expectations, the fragile hope that had started to tether them together. He took a deep breath, grounding himself. "People are desperate for something real, Dave," Harold replied with a power he didn't know he possessed. "And it starts with us believing in each other. Can you be part of that change?" Dave stared, uncertainty flashing across his features. A crack, a moment where both men stood on divergent paths, waiting for the other to move. The crowd held its collective breath, anticipation thick enough to cut. Emily, sensing the gravity of the moment, stepped forward. "This isn't about the past, Dave. It's about the future. Join us, and let us build something beautiful." Even amidst a challenge, he felt hearts igniting around him, that fragile seed of possibility beginning to shimmer under pressure. Would Dave accept? Would he support their cause or dismiss it as nostalgia? As the silence stretched, Harold couldn't shake the feeling that the heart of Maplewood was beating faster, ready to grasp what might come next. But would it be enough to win over the man who held the key to revitalizing the town? A flicker of determination sparkled in Emily's eyes as she looked back at him, and in that moment, Harold knew everything was about to change. There was a weight in the air, a shift. Would they rise together or shatter apart? The rhythm of fate thrummed around them, on the cusp of a revelation. A moment hung in the air, stretching out like a thick fog. The townsfolk's faces were a mix of curiosity and concern, their hopes tethered to Harold's and Emily's daring ask. Harold stood firm, feeling the heat of Dave's gaze, yet behind that cool exterior, he sensed the flicker of doubt that might ignite into something more. Dave shifted slightly, studying the crowd. They were ordinary people, yet in their eyes, he saw a spark, an unwavering belief that Maplewood could thrive again. He cleared his throat, ready to speak, and the moment seemed to freeze. "This is quaint," he said slowly, a patronizing smirk creeping back onto his lips. "But you really think you can change anything? You think flowers and festivities can erase years of decay?" Harold felt the sting of those words, but deep inside, something stirred. He stepped closer, pulling together the confidence he never knew he had. "You don't have to live here to see what this town means to us. It's our home. It's where our roots run deep. You can see it, too, if you look beyond the surface." Dave raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm here to save a lost cause?" The crowd shifted, whispers rising around them. Emily squeezed her father's arm, offering silent strength. Her unwavering faith sparked like a firefly against the dark backdrop of doubt. "It's not about saving," she interjected, her voice clearer now. "It's about belief. Imagine from parks to playgrounds, from local art to festivals, if we all work together, we could build a community that shines. You could be part of that." Surprisingly, she stepped forward, locking eyes with him. "You have the power to make that a reality," she said, voice trembling with passion. "What good is success if we can't share it?" The silence hit like a wave crashing over the shore. Dave's gaze flickered between father and daughter. There was something electric in Emily's words, a truth that resonated deep within him. The aura of mockery melted away, revealing a flicker of understanding. "And what if I wanted to?" He finally asked, his voice softer yet skeptical. What's in it for me? Harold's heart raced. What was he about to say? But this was the moment. Isn't the real reward standing with us, being a part of something that creates joy and unity? You may have wealth, Dave, but you also have power. Use it to uplift us. Look around, we're your neighbors, your community. Let South turn this place into something that brings pride. The crowd leaned in. For the first time in years, they dared to hope. Would this be the moment that changed everything? Tension rippled through the mass of people, and they exchanged glances, hearts collectively beating with a yearning to be heard, seen, and valued. Still unsure, Dave glanced back at his car, as if it contained the answers. Yet, in that moment, the barriers he built began to crack. He hesitated. Join us then, tonight, Emily urged, her eyes sparkling. Let us share stories, ideas. You don't have to commit now. Just see how we work together. The vulnerability in her voice clung to the atmosphere, and Harold could feel each breath they all took. Dave shifted again. All right, he said finally, a reluctant smile breaking through. I'll attend. But I'm not promising anything. Just come, Harold said suddenly, warmth flooding his chest. That's all we need. Come and hear what we've dreamed up together. As Dave accepted that simple invitation, a collective sigh swept through the crowd, a ripple of hope and newfound purpose, shifting the very essence of Maplewood. Harold caught Emily's eye. Her smile bloomed, brighter than the morning sun, the atmosphere crackled with energy, possibilities emerging from uncertainty. But as they turned to go back to their work, a distant rumble of thunder echoed from the sky. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Was this a warning, or just a simple storm? The future of Maplewood lay ahead, shimmering with opportunities and challenges. But as Harold glanced back, he couldn't shake the feeling that shadows still lurked, and they weren't done fighting just yet. What might that storm bring? Would it disrupt their fragile unity or spark greater resilience? As the townspeople dispersed, the weight of anticipation hung between them. Harold and Emily trudged back home, each step echoing with a mix of hope and trepidation. The thunder in the distance felt like a warning bell, something ominous on the horizon. Do you think he'll really come? Emily asked, her eyes reflecting the coppery hues of dusk. There was an eagerness in her voice, but also a shadow of doubt that had crept in. He will, Harold replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. We just have to give him a taste of what Maplewood can be, all of us. And show him it's worth believing in. As they reached the front porch, a gust of wind whipped through the yard, sending leaves swirling like whispers of encouragement. The air was charged, as if the very atmosphere was waiting for something to happen. They stood there for a moment, watching the trees sway in rhythm with their thoughts. Should I call the others? Emily asked. Let them know about tonight. They should hear this too. Absolutely, Harold said. The more voices joining together, the stronger we'll be. This is their fight as much as it is ours. Emily nodded and bounded inside. Harold leaned against the porch railing, staring out at the now darkening street. He thought about Dave, about the man who could either become their ally or the anchor that held them back. The possibilities trembled in the air, thick as the storm clouds gathering above. Hours later, just an hour before their gathering, the town's community center buzzed with life. Tables were set, banners hung, and laughter erupted from corners where old friends caught up. Harold moved through it all, a smile plastered on his face, but inside, the whirlwind of nerves threatened to tug him under. Hey, Dad! Emily called, breaking his reverie. She waved him over to the kitchen area where a group was busily preparing food. Everyone's excited. We've got the potluck organized, and people are bringing their best dishes. This is really happening. A soft, warming glow settled over him, and he grinned. That's what it's all about. Community. Just then, the door swung open, and the bustling atmosphere paused. All eyes turned toward the entrance. There he was. Dave stepped in, the shoulders of his tailored coat stiff against the warmth of the room. The crowd held their breath, an audible intake of air resounding in the silence. Did he really show? Emily whispered, her eyes wide in astonishment. Dave scanned the room, registering the faces before him, some hopeful, others skeptical. Slowly, he walked further in, his posture shifting, the earlier arrogance replaced by something more tentative. "Thank you for having me," he said, voice steadying, though there was an underlying current of uncertainty. Harold stepped forward, heart thudding in his chest. "You made the right choice, Dave. We're glad you're here." It's more lively than I expected," he admitted, allowing a small, rare smile into the conversation that made it to his eyes. Before they could process how the evening might unfold, a rumble of thunder echoed outside, punctuating Dave's arrival. The pouring rain began, pattering softly against the roof as it cascaded down. Yet, inside the community center, warmth and chatter swelled in defiance of the darkened sky. "Let us share what we came for," Emily said, her voice breaking the tension, rallying people to gather around. "We have some amazing ideas for Maplewood that we want you to hear." As ideas and stories began to flow, a sense of unity wrapped around the group like a warm blanket. For the first time, Harold felt the old wounds of Maplewood beginning to heal slowly but surely, but just as laughter erupted and plans started to take shape, a louder crash of thunder shook the building, causing a stir. "What was that?" someone exclaimed, the nervous energy in the room shifting back toward anxiety. Harold's stomach clenched. He turned to Emily, who was frozen, eyes wide, uncertainty replacing her earlier eagerness. "Maybe it's just a storm," he said, but even he didn't believe it. The night, once promising, now felt precarious. What if the storm outside mirrored the brewing conflict inside? Could it unravel everything they had just begun to build? He caught Dave's gaze, a questioning look exchanged between them. Would this be a night for building bridges or burning them down? As the tension rose and the storm raged outside, one question lingered in the air: could they face both their fears and the storm together, or would they fracture under the pressure? The rain hammered down, drowning out the voices inside the community center. Each drop felt heavy with expectancy, as if the heavens themselves were weighing the fate of Maplewood. Harold could feel his heart race. They had gathered here to create a vision, to forge a path forward, but now that vision seemed buried beneath the crescendo of thunder and rain. "Let us focus," Emily urged, her voice cutting through the noise. She stood tall, her shoulders squared, trying to rally not just the crowd but also Harold's wavering spirit. "We can't let a little storm scare us. This is our chance to make a change." As if on cue, a group of veterans from the town stepped forward, sharing memories of Maplewood's vibrance. They recounted sunshine-filled festivals, bustling markets, and friendly neighborly get-togethers that transformed the quiet town into a close-knit community. Their words hung in the air, thick with nostalgia and warmth. Dave watched, a prominent figure trapped between the past and the future. He could see the sincerity burning in the eyes of the townspeople. Their passion was palpable, igniting something deep within him that he hadn't acknowledged before. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a lifeline thrown to a town he once thought was lost. "I get it now," he said softly, though it felt like he was speaking to himself. "Maplewood is more than just a place. It's the people." Harold shifted his weight, stepping closer as he sensed the change. "Exactly. This community is full of potential, but we need someone to believe in it, someone like you." A smile flickered across Dave's face, but it was still weighed down by doubt. "What if I fail them?" "Then we'll pick up the pieces together," Emily replied, her eyes fierce with determination. "You can't do this alone. None of us can. That's what community is all about, leaning on one another." The energy in the room shifted. An idea bloomed in the minds of several attendees, one that was followed by a series of nods and murmurs. It was contagious, the spark of hope igniting in those who had spent too long in despair. Together, they brainstormed ways to revitalize Maplewood, ways to bring back its heartbeat. Outside, the rain showed no signs of stopping, but inside the community center, a storm of ideas surged. They talked about relaunching the annual fair, restoring the old library, and reviving the arts program that had once made their little town thrive. Just as the chatter reached a crescendo, another mighty crack of thunder split the night, shaking the very foundations of the building. A flicker of the lights caused a collective gasp from the crowd. Emily flinched but then regained her composure, rallying her courage. "We can make it through this. If we can face a storm together, we can face anything." A bold declaration that hung in the air, sparking excitement. Harold reached for Dave, an encouraging grip on his shoulder. "What do you say? Will you help us rebuild?" As Dave looked around, he saw sincerity etched into every face. Could he really be that mountain of support they needed? Suddenly, he felt the crushing weight of expectations mixed with a fierce desire to prove himself. "Okay, I'm in," he finally responded. Just then, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the room into darkness. Panic erupted, and voices cried out, uncertainty returning like a shroud. "Everyone stay calm," Harold shouted, cutting through the noise. "We're still here. We're with each other." But as anxiety surged, a loud crash beat against the doors, giving way to a thunderous gust of wind. Harold's stomach dropped. Had they just let the wrong person in? Did the storm outside promise danger, or was it a twist of fate? Questions hung thick in the air, and in everyone's mind, the same thought whispered, what awaited them beyond those doors? The air was thick with tension, each heart beating loud and fast, echoing against the walls of the community center. Harold felt his throat tighten as the sound of splintering wood crashed against his thoughts. He instinctively called out for calm, but uncertainty prickled at the back of his mind. They weren't just fighting the storm outside, they were facing something unknown that could shatter the fragile hope they had just built. Emily grasped the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white. "We need to check it out," she said, a mixture of fear and determination in her eyes. "Stay together. We're stronger united." Dave's heart raced. He stood frozen, torn between anxiety and a strange urge to prove himself. He was nobody's hero, not even to himself. I'll go," he stammered, stepping forward against a wave of instinctive fear. Maybe this was his chance to show Maplewood that he belonged. As he approached the door, the raging storm outside howled, buffeting the walls in anger. He grasped the handle, hesitating just for a moment as he turned back to the gathered townspeople. Their faces were a patchwork of concern, hope, and a hint of adrenaline. They believed in something. Maybe it was time for him to start believing in himself. With a deep breath, he flung the door open. Rain lashed at his face, and the wind tugged at his clothes like a child pulling at a parent's sleeve. However, it wasn't the storm that struck him most, it was the figure silhouetted against the downpour. A man stood outside, drenched and trembling, arms raised as if pleading for help. The crowd surged forward in murmurs, cautiously taking steps toward the door. "What do we do?" someone whispered, glancing back at Emily and Harold for guidance. Emerging from the shadows, the man stepped into the light, revealing a face lined with age and weariness, eyes wide with desperation. "Please," he choked out, gasping against the wind. "I need your help." "Who are you?" Emily spoke up, her voice cracking, pulling herself into a position of strength once more. "What do you want?" "I'm Charlie," he began, each word laborious, "a former resident of this town. I've lost everything. But I heard what you're doing here. I'm in trouble. And I think you're the only ones who can help me." Dave felt the weight of the room shift. This was no longer about recovery plans and festivals, this was real. A life in jeopardy. "What kind of trouble?" he demanded, taking a step closer, an instinct stirring within him. Charlie raked a hand through damp hair, essential and raw. "My son, he's in deep, and I can't reach him. I thought, maybe if I came back here the old days, the community." I thought maybe. An anxious silence enveloped them, hearts pounding rapidly. This man stood on the brink like everyone else in the room, he carried the weight of despair. But did he also carry hope? "Listen, we're all feeling lost in one way or another," Emily said gently. But we have strength here, together. Tell us what you need. As Charlie spoke, raw emotion bled into the air. His voice trembled as he shared stories of his son, the young man who had once been vibrant and full of dreams. Now, Charlie painted a picture of lost potential, darkness swirling around dreams that seemed to fade like an old photograph. In that moment, Dave felt something shift within him, a connection to the pain of a father's heart yearning for redemption. Together, they could tackle this challenge. The faint flicker of hope ignited in the hearts of those present. Charlie's plea wasn't just for help, it was for belonging. Could they bring not just Maplewood back to life but also this man's son? The community had ignited a fire within them all. They could reclaim hope, revive hearts. As the storm continued to rage outside, so too did the growing storm of emotion within the community center. Dave couldn't shake the feeling that their fates were intertwined now. Could they save Charlie's son? Before another thought arose, a loud thump echoed from the back of the room, freezing everyone in place once more. What was that? Someone gasped, eyes darting toward the shadows again. Something was coming, something that could change everything. The tension escalated, electrifying the air as the crowd held its breath. Whispers of confusion mixed with fear fluttered across the room. Dave's heart raced faster, every instinct in him screamed to investigate, but tethered by uncertainty, he stayed rooted to the spot. Did you hear that? Someone murmured, glancing down the dim hallway. The flickering fluorescent lights barely cut through the thick shadow that loomed beyond them. Stay here. I'll check it out, Dave said, forcing the words out. He could almost feel Charlie's gaze on him like a weight. It was a look that asked for bravery, for movement. Taking a deep breath, he carefully stepped away from the group, his footfalls soft against the worn floor, his hand trembling as he reached toward the source of the sound. As he moved deeper into the darkness, the air felt colder, pressing against his skin. Behind him, the murmurs of concern continued, but he was determined. This was his moment. He would not falter. Just as he approached an old storage room door, another thump resonated. It was heavier this time, more demanding. With a quick glance back at Emily and the others, their faces a mosaic of worry and determination, he steadied himself and twisted the knob. The door creaked open, revealing an expansive space filled with old furniture and forgotten memories coated in dust. Then, he noticed it, a shadow shifting in a corner. Before he could react, the figure lunged forward, and Dave jumped back in shock. Wait! I mean no harm. A feminine voice shouted, her words laced with desperation. The girl, no older than 20, looked wild-eyed and covered in dirt and grime. She was shaking, carrying an aura more of despair than aggression. Who are you? Dave managed to ask, clutching the door frame as if it were his lifeline. Please, she begged, you have to help me. I'm Lucy, Charlie's daughter. I came here to find him. Lucy's admission fell heavy in the room, rippling through Dave, who had thought of Charlie's son but never considered the father had a daughter. Your father Charlie? He stammered, walking closer, taking in the wild hair, the tear-streaked face. Yes. He's in trouble. I don't know what to do. Her voice broke, tears spilling as she looked imploringly into Dave's eyes. I saw what my brother has become and it scares me. We can't let him drown in this mess. In that instant, understanding washed over him like the storm outside, a fierce sense of urgency coupled with a desire to protect this shattered family. We're all here to help, he promised, echoing Emily's earlier words, feeling stronger with each heartbeat. Dave's mind raced with thoughts. Could they save not only Charlie's son but also rekindle the connection between the siblings? He knew it would take more than just words, it would take action, courage, and a united front. Meanwhile, back in the community center, the people had grown restless. Emily could feel the ripple of fear as worry creased the brows of those gathered. We need to know what's happening. Should we? Before she could finish, a loud crash from the door sent a jolt through everyone. Eyes widened as they prepared for what could emerge. In the back of the room, Charlie cried out, Lucy. Is that you? His voice layered with hope and dread, and inside the storage room, all eyes were drawn to the door. It was a chaotic moment of uncertainty, a threaded knot of what could unfold next. Would they find strength within and without? The storm outside howled, but within the community center, something profound was about to break, the revelation that everything they held onto might just be tested beyond what they ever imagined. In the silence that followed, the whispers of trust began to intertwine with desperate hearts. How could they turn these desperate pleas into powerful actions? And could a community truly save what was left of a family? The anxious quiet was shattered once again by the crash of something heavy hitting the floor. What was unfolding? The stakes were higher than ever. As the command of uncertainty hung heavy in the air, Dave's heart slammed inside his chest. He exchanged a glance with Lucy, her frightened eyes filling with fierce determination. "We have to go back to them," he said, urgency in his voice. The crash echoed again, more persistent this time, and Lucy nodded, gripping his arm as they made their way through the room and towards the door. Just as they crossed the threshold back into the main area, the crowd erupted into a frenzy. A figure stumbled into view, a boy, Charlie's son, Mark. His face was battered and his clothes torn. The chaos froze for a heartbeat as everyone turned to face him, a mixture of relief and horror painting their expressions. "Mark!" Charlie's voice boomed, a wave of panic breaking through the crowd. "What happened?" Mark's eyes darted around the room, landing on Lucy. His gaze was wild, glazed over with confusion. "I don't know," he stammered, hands shaking. I can't remember." "Breathe, just breathe," Lucy murmured, taking a step toward him. "We're here. You're safe," but deep down, fear anchored itself in her gut. The transformation she witnessed in her brother haunted her. The murmurs grew louder as the crowd grappled with the scene. Emily stepped closer, wanting to intervene but unsure whether to comfort Mark or urge Lucy to keep her distance. "Mark, we need you to tell us what is going on," she said, her voice steady but laced with concern. With every beat of silence that followed, tension escalated. Mark closed his eyes, trying to summon something, anything from the darkness fogging his mind. The voices they wouldn't stop. He suddenly gasped, panic blossoming anew. "I thought I was alone. They wanted me to do things I can't even." "What kind of things?" Dave asked, stepping closer, his heart pounding for the boy who seemed so lost. Mark's breath hitched. "Things that hurt, things that terrified me. I wanted to escape." His voice cracked, and Lucy's heart ached. Here was a boy on the edge, teetering on a precipice and grasping for a lifeline, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavy on her shoulders. Then Charlie stepped forward, his voice strained yet firm. "Mark, look at me." He placed a hand on his son's shoulder, steadying him like a ship in a storm. "You're not alone. We've gotten through tough times before. I'm here with you." As father and son locked eyes, the room held its breath. A flicker of recognition passed between them, a glimmer of trust challenging the chaos. Dave's mind raced as well, piecing together the reality of the chaos that had enveloped them since the storm began. They had to find a way through this. "We're all in this together," he said, raising his voice above the crowd's whispers. "We have to break this cycle, together. No one gets left behind." But even as he spoke hope into the air, unease settled like fog. The storm outside was pulling them into a dark abyss. Lucy's heart dropped with a thought. What if Mark was lost in that darkness forever? "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling as she faced the group, desperation creeping in. "He needs help, something deeper than we can give here." The expression on Mark's face shifted. He glanced at Lucy, then back at his father. "What if they find us? What if they come again?" Chills ran through the room. Every person felt the weight of his words. The darkness was not just in Mark's mind, but it felt to them a brooding presence outside. Something that could reach out and pull them into despair, and just as they braced for what might come next, the ground shook beneath them, rattling their very foundations. A rumble thrummed through the walls as if the storm was angry outside, manifesting its rage into the reality they were struggling to articulate. In that moment, Lucy gripped her brother's hand tighter, heart racing, knowing they were on the brink of something life-changing. Would it bring them together or tear them apart? In the loud rumblings that followed, a silence fell amidst the confusion. Then came a sound, the unmistakable creak of old wood splintering under pressure. The stakes had never felt higher. What was about to break through? Was it hope, or something much darker? The collective gasp echoed through the community center as the doors swung wide open, revealing a gust of wind that sent old memories fluttering like papers torn from a stack. From the threshold, a pressing darkness loomed, pulsating with a tension that left hearts racing. The crowd clutched each other tightly, eyes wide, anticipating what could emerge next. Feeling the weight of the moment, Harold stepped forward, a force of calm in the storm of chaos. "Everyone, we're not just a community, we are a family." His voice resonated, grounding them. "Whatever is out there, we face it together. We've come too far to let fear unravel what we're building." Emily stood resolutely beside her father. "And Mark," she added, her eyes fixed on the still trembling boy. "You're with us, and we're with you. No more running. No more hiding." As if stirred by their words, Charlie stepped closer to his son, his weary frame steadying the boy's uncertain gaze. "Look at this place, Mark," he urged. "These people have come together for us. They want to help. You don't have to fight this alone." Mark's breath hitched. As doubt danced in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability surfaced. He glanced around, taking in the faces surrounding him, each etched with concern and hope. Could they really be that lifeline his father spoke of? With a brave inhale, he nodded, whispers of trust spiraling through him. The shadows receded a fraction, revealing a fragile light breaking through the storm's rage. Then, louder than thunder, a voice broke through the chaos from beyond the door, calling back the lost. An unnerving silence hung thick as they strained to hear. "Mark. You have to stay away. You can't trust them." Louder and more frantic, the voice echoed again, drawing heads toward the door. Eyes widened in shock. It was the brother Mark had lost to despair. Panic swept through the crowd as they grasped the implications of that familiar tone. "What's happening?" Lucy shouted, driven by concern for her brother. "Is someone coming for him? Who is out there?" In that moment, tensions reached a boiling point. Their world felt on the brink again, but within the chaos, Harold found a flicker of clarity. "Mark," he said urgently, stepping closer, "listen to me. That voice is the part of you still lost. But it's not stronger than us. You have the choice to walk toward the light or back into the darkness." The boy's brow furrowed. Tears streaked his dusty face, reflecting the turmoil in his heart. He stood suspended between two worlds, but something in Harold's voice grounded him. Emily squeezed his hand, her warmth a tether pulling him back. "Everyone," Dave called, looking around at the gathered crowd. "We need to provide a sanctuary for him. We can't let the past dictate his future. It's time we all embrace our truths and rise together." As if on cue, the townsfolk stepped forward, forming a circle around Mark and Lucy, creating an invisible shield of support. They were a tapestry of shared struggles and dreams, each thread woven with resilience. "Keep going," one woman urged, rallying them onward. "Breathe, Mark," Emily guided, her voice gentle but firm. "Feel the love here. We will get through this together." Just then, the storm outside raged violently, echoing a clash of thunder that shook the walls. "This is the storm we fear," Harold thought, but they could hold steady. They could face it. Taking a deep breath, Mark looked toward the door, dread clenching his chest. I don't want to go back," he confessed, his voice breaking. "I don't want to lose you all too." "You won't," Charlie promised, stepping into his line of sight. "You're not losing us, you're gaining more. This is your strength you're holding on to. Don't let it go." The crowd nodded, each face illuminated by the glow of hope and solidarity that seemed almost infectious. With their encouragement, Mark stood tall, tears glistening in his eyes. I choose to step into the light," he declared, standing side by side with his sister. And in that powerful moment, the atmosphere shifted. The winds outside bore down furiously, but inside, a warmth unfurled. Together, the community formed, each person a steadying force. The storm howled, thunder shook, but instead of retreating, they pushed forward. "Let love guide us," shouted Lucy, tears of relief cascading down her cheeks as they fused their hands together. "Let us break this cycle." As Mark took a step forward, darkness receded, and the shadows of doubt began to scatter. For the first time, he felt accepted, not as a haunted soul, but as a son, a brother, part of something bigger. Thunder crashed again, but it underscored a shared determination. "Stand tall," someone cheered, lending strength to the fragile moment. The storm could rage. They would stand as one. As the community rallied like never before, Harold felt a wave of fulfillment boiling in his chest. They had faced their fears. They had chosen light over darkness. Among the laughter and tears, a new beginning unfurled, vibrant and alive, illuminating the once forlorn Maplewood. Their shared journey had just begun, and amidst the storm, they finally understood together, they would rise. Remember, you need to subscribe now to keep witnessing transformations like this. This is the moment to show your support, so please leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Definitely comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the light.